Three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Creators Lounge podcast. I can't lie. On one hand, me and Cass are both extremely tired. I was late to the recording, and then she was also taking a nap because I was late. And I'm gonna kind of toss the blame. No, I'm kidding. I take full responsibility. So on one hand, we're quite tired. But on the other hand, I'm also incredibly excited for this because obviously Cass is my younger sister and we've collaborated on a lot of projects in the past. We did grow up together, unfortunately. And of course, we have the new song out as well, I Don't Love You Anymore, which we'll get into later on the episode. Cass, I always have the guests do a quick self-introduction, so let these people know. What is your name? Where are you from? And what do you do?
My name's Cassia Biller. And I'm from a lot of places. I'm just kidding. I'm from the United States of America. I guess we can say that. And I currently work for the post office, but I also sing and write music quite a lot. So that is what I do.
And you're a very incredible and talented musician. But I want to dig into it deeper because, like, even from the introduction where you're saying, you work for the post office, but you also make music. Like, I mean, you've been playing guitar for years. You've been songwriting for years. You're just a very artistic person. Like, even just because I know you personally, I know all the different artistic endeavors you've kind of dipped your toes into.
Right.
But I mean, starting from like that point right there, do you think of yourself as a musician?
I do, actually. I do, yes. And I like to think of myself as being very artistic too. And I don't want to pull like I don't want to pull like zodiac signs into this or anything, but I'm a
Please do.
Pisces. And Pisces are actually known to be very artistic and creative. And I would like to say that I think I bring honor to the Pisces name by being that. But not to be conceited.
Or delusional, but
Sure,
you are 100% right, though.
definitely.
And by the way, zodiacs are totally accepted here. As it
I
is
just
what
felt
it
like
is.
maybe we're getting into it a little bit too early, but
yeah. It's like, hey, yo, buy a drink first. No, you are a musician. And I guess the thing is that when we talk about being a musician or being an artist, there's always that expectation as well that you need to be monetizing it, making money from it, growing audience, growing fans and such, right? And then for so many people, that's just not the case.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. There's so many different aspects of being an artist or being a musician in general. It doesn't just have to do with you're here for the sales, or you're here for where the monetary gain and where it gets you.
Absolutely.
It's not always like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's that way for you as well. I mean, let's go deeper into your process then. Obviously, being a bedroom musician for yourself because you're doing it for the love of it, you're doing it because you honor it, you want to do it, so how you express yourself. What kind of role does songwriting play in your life?
Oh, man. A huge role. A huge role because it's a type of detox kind of from real life. And it's so helpful whenever I'm trying to like de-stress from a long day or like a big situation or something that's happening in my life and I need to just get it all out in some way or form, and that transpires into writing music. And it all just comes out in one way or another, through either playing my guitar or, writing it all down, singing it out, whatever it is. It always transpires into music.
I love that. It's funny because I was literally talking about this last night with another friend, and they were doing some drawing, and they got totally hyper-focused into the drawing they were working on to the point where they were doing very, minute details that would not be noticeable to anybody else. And then after zooming out of that, they're kind of like, they got frustrated because they're like, oh, I'm wasting my time focusing on all these like small details. And they made a comment about how for most people, being artistic is a stress relief. But then it can also be on the other side of like causing you pressure and anxiety if it's not perfect or you're not making progress. I'm curious for you real quick, Cass, if you want to touch on that as well. Like you said, songwriting is a way for you to detox and process emotions. On the other side, does songwriting ever give you anxiety or stress?
That depends. If I'm doing something for someone else, then first part, if say I'm writing a song for someone else, and the first part comes easy. It's done. I just wrote the song. I have my melody. I have everything done. And like if they want changes, that's the part where I get a little bit, shoot, now I have to make this perfect. Or not perfect, but now I have to make this what they're asking for, and it's no longer just something that I'm putting out there. Something that I'm just speaking into existence, and it's just in existence now.
Mm.
It's something that I now have to morph into what that person wants, or morph into what, is better sounding. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's the part where I get a little bit like, it's a little bit stressful now. But still it's all just part of it though, and I'm so deep into it that it doesn't really bother me anymore.
Mm.
Like, it's just such a part of me that now, even making changes to something I've already created or anything like that is just like secondhand. It's just like, all right, I'm fine with that.
But I want to dig into that
I'm fine
more
with
to
that.
understand it. It's a great point, and it's something that comes with growth. I think as you get more competent at your craft, you get more comfortable in your craft as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
Is there any
Definitely.
structure or system that you have when it comes to
Definitely.
songwriting?
Uh, a lot of people have like melody first, right? Or lyrics first, or um, background music, whatever you want to call it first, like a track first. I like working with tracks. I like working with melodies first, but if I'm being completely honest, I always start with lyrics. And even if it's just a split second between the lyric forming in my head and the melody coming out with the lyric, I typically always start with lyrics. There have been very, very few times where I've started with a melody and written something for it. In my head, it's always lyrics first.
That would imply to me hearing that you're very focused on storytelling when it comes to songwriting, or saying something. Is that true?
That is 100% true. That
Talk
is
more, dude.
100%
Dig into
true.
that, like about the stories you want to tell, then, or why does it have to start with the lyrics?
The stories I tell change every day. The stories I tell change with whatever I'm going through or whatever I've seen someone else go through. Um, and sometimes they pop up out of nowhere. Sometimes I'm thinking about them for a while and I have to put them in my head. I have to get it right first and then I'll put it into something. Takes a lot of thinking. It does. But storytelling is like 100% a part of what I do whenever I write music. Whenever I write
Beautiful.
any music. Mhm.
Storytelling is such I don't know, it's such an integral part of humanity, right? The way we communicate in storytelling, I think it seeps into
Exactly.
every aspect of life.
Exactly.
I had to write an essay this past week, and so I chose storytelling to make the essay about, and I was kind of discussing that how storytelling seeps into every single part of life, and I was saying in the essay is like life itself is storytelling, and every single day
It
people write a
is.
chapter,
It is. Yeah.
it's and so obviously it's reflected as well through our artistic forms, whether it be music or fashion or books, short stories. Visual imagery tells a story. How has
Mhm.
your creative expression grown over the years, Cass? I mean, like you're saying, obviously stuff's changed for you a lot in the past 10 years, going from knowing nothing to being a lot more competent in what you do. And you like to start with lyrics. You like to tell stories. The stories change every day. You had to learn how to collaborate with people instead of just being in your own cocoon.
Yeah.
How do you think your creative
Yeah.
expression has grown, especially in terms of storytelling?
When I was little, I loved writing everything down. And even before I could write, I would think about it in my head and write it in my head. And I loved doing that. And I always wanted to tell like so many stories, like about the randomest things. I would come up with the randomest things and want to tell a story about it. And it was just like, what are you doing? But to this day I still do though, only I take now I take specific situations. And like what I'm trying to say though is that I started as that, and it just kind of I've always stuck with that aspect of it, and to this day I still story tell 24/7. But along the way I learned how to write better, I learned how to make melodies sound better. I learned guitar, I learned piano, I learned ukulele, several different instruments that I could play. I would add electric guitar, but I didn't technically learn all of that. I can just play acoustic chords on electric guitar, so it's not technically the same. But it sounds pretty. So that's all that matters. To me anyway. And I learned all those things, and then from that, I learned how to put it all together and wrap it into one. And then I had to learn how to work with other people in doing that, or other people's tracks, and adding just certain aspects of my songwriting to it. So I feel like I've come a really long way. I feel like I'm a very long way. I would hope so. I would hope so.
You really have. I mean, even right there, you talking about it, you were able to reflect and look back on it and pull some lessons out of it and identify the growth points and everything that you've gone through. Another big part of growth, obviously, is influences. I think for you and me both, Cass, like influence has been such a major part of our process and our growth. And speaking for myself, because I don't want to infringe too much on what your own opinion might be, I know for myself, I think about the fact that the way I think about it is like I would not exist, I would not be alive, I would not be who I am today if it wasn't for these individuals that has shaped me so massively. And the list gets a little bit bigger as I live longer because I always get new influences, but there's still like
Exactly.
5 to 10 people that have changed my life in ways that I can't even express to people. I'm curious for you, Cass, in terms of songwriting, not life development, but more, I think, in terms of songwriting and music. I would love it if you want to list, like, I'll put the number at 3. It can be more or less depending on what comes to mind, but like maybe 3, at least 3 artists, roughly 3 artists that you have inspired you, and what's the lesson specifically you took from each one? So like artist and the lesson, another artist, another lesson, anywhere from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not sure how many you want to list off, but you artists and a lesson you learned from them. Go ahead.
All right. As for the life lessons thing, I feel like that's a different topic. So
Sure.
we need to set it. I think we need to set it aside because it's just it's so long, it's so big.
I know I'm at the top of the list anyway, so
Well, are we going in alphabetical order or? But yeah. So as for songwriting, though, I'm gonna be honest. That's kind of a pretty long list as well. When I was little, let's see. When I was little, I listened to so many different artists, and I feel like this kind of related. Any new artist that I listen to, my songwriting would be affected by it because it would be a new form of songwriting, and so then my songwriting would be affected by what I was listening to. And it's not always a good thing, but it does teach you how to write in several different forms of, music, several different aspects of music. But I feel like if I could pull a few names out, let's see. I feel like if we're talking about voice-wise, like my singing, I listen to way too much Ariana Grande. Listen to way too much Ariana Grande, and that shapes my singing. And even Whitney Houston as well, actually. Whitney Houston as well. And lyric-wise, 21 Pilots taught me that I could write whatever I wanted, and I could make something out of it. That's what 21 Pilots taught me, and that I could be as real as I wanted, and it didn't matter if someone accepted it or not. It was just that it was what I was putting out there, and it was my form of creativity at that point in time. So they taught me that, and let's see, music-wise, like with melodies and everything, I love Avicii's different tunes and melodies he has. I love Avicii's stuff. So he kind of taught me that. And also, a lot of people say that like the 70s inspired my acoustic guitar songs, and I don't specifically know who to like give credit to for that because there's so many. I understand it. I understand it. Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to say, like, you know, the Beatles gave me the ability to do that. You know what I'm trying to say?
I
Like,
mean,
the
if I could
Beatles
jump
are,
in on that
like
one, just because you two grow up together, I think
anything, yeah.
for me, immediately John Denver comes to mind. That's for me
Oh,
personally. I'm
yeah.
not sure about
Oh,
you so
yeah.
much,
There
but
we go. There we go,
there's
John
John
Denver.
Denver, James Taylor. I'm a fan. I don't know
Definitely
if you
John
know
Denver.
his stuff as much. The Monkees would be another one to throw out there
Oh,
as
the
well,
Monkees. Definitely the Monkees.
and maybe Sean
Definitely.
Cassidy. But Sean
Oh,
Cassidy
even
wasn't.
Sean. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cassidy. Even
Sean
Sean Cassidy.
Cassidy, John Denver, James Taylor, the
And
Monkees,
Elvis as well.
Elvis Presley. I think
And
those are some of the ones that we kind of grew up
Elvis
around.
Presley. Mhm. Um, so yeah, I think that definitely shaped kind of my melody side of things. And as for like storytelling in songs though, I really loved it when Adele would do stories in her songs. I did love it when Adele would do that. And I feel like when you look for it, you can find it. Like
Mm.
Queen often, Freddie often did stuff like that, where he would tell stories in his songs. And I listened to a lot of, Freddie and Queen and everything, but I don't know, there's just so many. I feel like I'm too exhausted to think about everyone right now.
You touched a little bit on every single decade, so I mean,
There's
respect
so
to you for
many.
that, all the different things you pulled through. It's also really cool though, and it might be one reason why you and me are able to collaborate successfully is because, a lot of the names you mentioned are also people who massively shaped my
Yeah.
musical influence, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned Whitney Houston, and I don't get to talk about her enough, but she is someone who just massively influenced and affected me. And Avicii's the other one, and everyone knows that because I talk about Avicii almost every single day. Like you said, his melodies are god level. Just incredible musician.
They're
So,
amazing to listen to.
oh, absolutely,
They're
and then
amazing to
also
listen
like you
to.
said, the touch of 70s in there as well. It's like we were very lucky, you and me both are very lucky, Cass, to have grown up in such a musically diverse environment
Oh,
because
100%.
right?
100%.
Because even with everything you listed, which is already very extremely varied, we also grew up watching 1940s and 1950s films or
Yeah.
musicals, right? So
Yeah.
Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire, Bing
Mhm.
Crosby,
Mhm.
and then jumped into 60s music, and then 70s and 80s and 90s to modern day.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We've just been
Because
extremely
we didn't
lucky.
even, and musicals, like, not even musicals just from the 40s, 40s and 50s and everything. Like, even musicals like Wicked or Hairspray, like, I feel like they also shaped me because I listened to them so much,
Mhm.
I listened to them so much, and so they also shaped parts of my songwriting.
I'm curious as well. I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, there's so many different influences you have musically. What kind of tunes do you vibe with most recently? Because obviously, as you're introduced to new artists and new sounds, you kind of dig into them and you explore that area. At this stage right now of your life, what are some of the artists that you're vibing with?
I don't wanna be looked at in a bad way.
I think that whatever you say is going to be very relatable. Because like you're saying, like there's some artists people don't like to name drop just because of the association with them or what they might represent. But then actually everyone does listen to them and they are affecting right
Right?
now's generation.
Right?
So
Um, I feel like Nicki Minaj really helped me. No, I'm just kidding. But honestly, yeah, Nicki has some really
put
great
some
tunes too. I'm
respect
gonna be
on her
completely
name, dude.
honest.
Put some respect on
Yeah.
her name.
No, I'm gonna be completely honest. She has some really great tunes. I'm
Hmm.
I'm not gonna lie.
Well, and I think what's cool
Um,
about Nikki to jump in real quick is that she is such a multifaceted creator to the point where,
oh yeah.
she's obviously
Oh
music is
yeah.
like the main product, but
And
like her
so talented.
personality, her business sense, the way she's made moves to become the
Yeah.
certified queen of like rap in this era
Oh
is
yeah.
like it's
And so
insane.
talented too. And like I don't think anybody complains about the image that Nicki has created for herself.
You can't.
Like you
You
don't,
can't.
right? Like you can't complain. You just don't. You can't
Yeah.
disrespect that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was completely joking a minute ago. I like total I yeah, I love Nicki. I love Nicki. Also I wanted to add though, sorry, Carly Rae Jepsen as well. Carly Rae Jepsen. So see there's just like yeah, you know what I mean? But I have been listening to her a bit as of late. I always listen to so many different things. Love Walks In by Van Halen has
Mm.
been like one of my favorites lately, and I don't know why, but, it started kind of sorry, this is kind of off topic, but I would anytime I would have, like, a hard day at work,
Mm.
I would always be looking forward to when I could get in my car, roll my windows down, turn on Love Walks In, and drive home.
Yep.
Like, drive home, like, that's just all I wanted to do. So, like, anytime I was having a hard day at work, you know, I'm dealing with customers, I would just be like, "I'm gonna listen to Van Halen, bro, bye." You know? I was like, "I'm gonna drive with the windows down and be listening to Love Walks In, so just don't talk to me."
No,
No.
dude, for real. I mean,
No, sorry, I'm not mean, but
going
yeah.
back to what you said, music is a way to detox, a way to heal, right?
Oh,
And so
yeah.
music
Oh, yeah.
is it always can be that have that healing factor. Awesome. I mean, we
Exactly.
covered your background pretty well, Cass. I'm really
Yeah.
I want to dig
Can
into
I
like,
add one more
please
thing?
do. Go ahead.
One more thing? I know that she's frowned upon in certain industries. And she's frowned upon in certain industries, and, like, everyone doesn't always vibe with her. But for some reason, don't get mad at me, I've been on a Taylor Swift kick.
I was wondering if you were
And
gonna mention her or not.
I don't know why I've been on a Taylor Swift kick, because I have to go through stages where I listen to her music.
Mhm.
And so there'll be times where I'll just be like, "Oh, I can't listen to that." But, that happens with a lot of music, though. I'll be like, "Oh, I can't listen to that," and, like, you know, a few weeks later, I'll be like, "Where's that song at? I need to listen to it." But, and the thing is that she's another storyteller. And even if you don't like her music or how it sounds, I listen to it a lot for her storytelling that she has and her little world she creates within her music. And, like, she did something that is, like, so bedroom musician, it's not even funny. She created, and released a 10-minute version of one of her old songs, and she legit just sings whatever she wants in it. Like, I know she wrote it and everything, but she really just came there and was like, "I wanna say all of this, and I don't care if it takes 10 minutes to say it." And that, in my opinion, was the most bedroom musician thing I've ever seen, like, a big name artist release. You know, like, she went to the recording studio, she took the basis, you know, the 3 to 5 minute song that it originally was, and added another 5 minutes onto it, and didn't even care. Because she had something to say and she had a story to tell, and so she did it. And, like, I respect for that, right? You know, like, she went out and did that, and I respect her for doing that. And when you're listening to it, you know, you do get into it, you're like, "Oh, wow. Alright, I see. I see." But,
I mean,
I
I
think that's
want
just part of it,
if you don't mind, I
though.
want to jump in on that, Cass, actually, because
Yeah.
for someone like
Yeah.
myself, I talk a lot about the short song style of putting out stuff that's, a minute long or 2 minutes long. But
Right,
on the
right.
flip side, like you said, there's also a space for long songs. And so I'm gonna pull up a quote I read from Meatloaf. Rest in peace to Meatloaf, obviously incredible musician and artistic talent.
24/7, I've been listening to his music, I'm not kidding.
Dude,
I'm not kidding.
if anyone hasn't, like,
24/7.
dig into his discography
I've listened
because
to his
his
music.
A sides
Yeah,
are
guys,
great,
check
but
it
his
out.
B sides are also great. So
Check it out.
obviously for Meatloaf, like who he was as a musician, he did tend to create longer songs in most cases,
He
even looking
did.
at,
I'm getting goosebumps.
let's just
I'm getting
reference,
goosebumps right
his
now.
most famous is the one that had the most commercial success, which was I Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That, which was the final cut, I think was 11,
Yeah.
12 minutes long. And they cut it down
So
to like
long.
about 7, I think,
Mm.
for radio. I could have the numbers messed up, but I think it was about that.
It's something like that.
So he had a quote and he said, "People say the songs are so long, but they're condensed life stories. 12 minutes is rather short for Anything for Love. 8 minutes isn't too much for Paradise by the Dashboard Lights. Those songs are about entire lifetimes." And I thought that was so interesting. It's a great point. When you're
It
telling a
is.
story with your song, you're condensing, a whole lifetime or several months into one song. And it's justifiable to be 5 minutes long, 10 minutes long,
Exactly.
15 minutes long,
Exactly.
depending on the story you're telling. It takes time.
Exactly. Like, that's what I'm saying. And Meatloaf, like, I got really, really sad because I'm, like, you know, driving early in the morning, driving to my class, and 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad is on. And I'm just, like, you know, singing it. I'm singing 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad. And it ends, and I had just gotten up ready. You know, it's really, really early in the morning. I'm heading to class. And the song ends, and they're like, and that takes, you know, that wraps up Meatloaf's, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, and what a beautiful career he had. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm just trying to drive and yeah. And I'm just listening to it, and they're like, you know, dead at 77 and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? I had to find out when I was, like, driving early in the morning. And I was sitting there in my car, and I'm like,
Dude, what a tragic way to find out. Like, you're on the way to Woke just vibing with the music, and they're like, that's
I'm
it.
not even kidding.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I'm not even kidding.
I mean, I was doing a live stream at the time on Clubhouse, and everyone was like, "Ben's being very quiet right now," and I was like, I couldn't say anything because I'd pulled up in the news and saw the headline. And I was like, yeah, very important musician to me just passed away. I don't have anything to say just now.
It's no joke.
Yeah.
It's no joke. And so I'm sitting there and like, I have to go sit in class after this.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what the freaking, how am I supposed to sit in class after this?
Sit there, just like bawling.
I just wanted to like sit there and like replay the entire song again for one, and then, you know, move on from that. So it was like really, it was actually really traumatizing.
Well, and it's just a testament to show, you know, like how powerful being a creative is, because you touch people's lives, people you're never going to meet, because your music is spread throughout the whole world, especially with the internet. Anyone can hear your stuff, can vibe with it. There's been so many artists who have helped me through a hard time, or, you know, inspired me or touched me. Like, they're never going to know that. They're not even people that are, you know, massively successful touring artists. I heard their song on SoundCloud, on Bandcamp, on Spotify, and I'm like, I fuck with that, you know, and they're never going to find that out, unfortunately. But that's the honor of being a musician, is being able to create and share the stuff that means something to us and hopefully touches other people as well. I mean, digging into that, Cass, we have got to talk about the stuff that you and me have done. We've done a few songs over the year that have that we've enjoyed making, that have done well commercially in our own, you know, small way.
Yeah.
Look,
sorry to get so off topic.
Not at all.
It just was. It was pretty tragic.
It was pretty tragic. It's related. Inspirations and people are what make life what it is. So losing talented musicians and people who have inspired us is heartbreaking. What is it like creating with Ben Jaye, with me? What is it like? You've got to be honest. You can't hold back. I mean, we're brother and sister.
I'm gonna be completely honest when I say that you have so much freedom. When I'm creating with you, I have so much freedom, and not everybody's like that, and that's fine. You know, that's fine, because I can't even say that, you know, I'm the same way. I can't even say that I would be completely open to everyone else's, you know, creative opinions if I was working on another project with someone, you know, and I was having them do something for me, like I do for you. So I respect that. I respect that you give me so much freedom, and I'm thankful for it. Because it's very nice.
I trust you, Cass. I trust you, and I think that's one of the cool things about being.
Maybe you shouldn't.
I'm glad I do. It's one of the cool things about being an independent creator is how much freedom that we have as individuals, right? And so I'm lucky enough to have a few select people around me, creatives around me, yourself, Inflake, Unisoner, who, when I give them a project, I have 100% faith in them that they're gonna make it happen. They're gonna make it work. So I don't need to be micromanaging of like, do this, put this element, fix that, because I already know them. I trust them. They know my vision. I understand their vision, and we're able to communicate. You know, even if it gets.
I feel like we can 100% connect on songs. We can always connect on either one aspect or another of a song, and honestly, most of the time, multiple aspects. You know, of these pieces we created. And I Don't Love You Anymore specifically. So there was so much that we connected on. You know, I wrote it and you really just loved what I wrote for it.
Let's jump into that. We'll go there next. The way, for anyone who doesn't know, the way that me and Cass generally collaborate on songs is that I'll make an instrumental, and then I might have a few ideas for the storyline, but I'll message Cass like, Cass, check out this instrumental. Here's my inspiration when I wrote it. Here's the story that I was thinking about in my head. And then I'll kind of give her those basis points, and then Cass will like just expound on it and add her own inspirations into it. So I want to hear from your side of the story, Cass. But I mean, we'll focus on I Don't Love You Anymore, new single. Check it out if you guys have not yet. If you guys haven't checked it out, listen to I Don't Love You Anymore, IDLYA, the short name for it, because my song names are too long.
I Don't Love You Anymore.
I mean, and even like I should take this opportunity to explain a little bit about the song. I want to explain more later on social in a more brief way, but so what happened for me was there was an experience I had in summer of 2020 where there was basically I had gotten into like the dating scene here in Seoul, and I'd been alone in Seoul for a long time, and so I was kind of looking for someone or something. I wasn't sure if I wanted a friend or I wanted a partner or like what it was I was looking for, but I was just looking for someone because I did feel very isolated. It's the pandemic. I was in a brand new city, didn't have a very big community of friends already, basically no one at that point. And I did meet someone eventually, and so we had some conversations, and the vibe that I took from it, the experience, was like when I first met them, I was like, this is incredible. Like, I've been so alone and isolated. I met this person that was very important to me, in a very short space of time, which obviously now I know is like red flag, it's dangerous, don't get too attached too soon. But what ended up happening is that it didn't really go all that well. Got ghosted, they disappeared. I went to the whole charade of like, what did I do wrong? How could I make them stay? Where are they? Are they okay? Blah 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 blah. And just had to go through that the hard way of like understanding why do people ghost you? How do you build self-esteem? It's a big process of self-discovery, which I didn't know at that time. I was still very much in the depths of grief and pain and confusion. But the situation just kind of went on for longer because eventually, several months later, they did contact me again. We did have another conversation. And then, they disappeared again and ended up coming back a few months later again after that, and we had another conversation. So it was kind of a situation, where they're in and out, here and then gone. And through that, obviously, it became a positive thing because I was able to understand more about human nature and about dating and about myself as well and how to deal with all of this. But that's where the song I Don't Love You Anymore came from, was all the turmoil it threw me into personally, which is also kind of silly, right? Like, why do you get so fucked up over one person? But it is what it is.
It happens though, Benji.
It happens, right? And so I got into the studio at one point and I put together this instrumental. It was very moody, very emotional. And then after I'd made for me, I usually like to just make a sample, like a small bit of a song. And then I went back and was like, how many layers can I put in this? How many elements can I put into this? And I just crafted this entire, Cass knows what I'm talking about because I threw some layers in there that did not need to be there.
Here's the thing though, guys, off topic, but on topic. As well as the layers Benji threw on, I went and literally threw on multiple background vocals, extra layers, just whatever I could. I topped it. I topped it the best I could. I was just like,
And it's kind of symbolic. I think it's kind of symbolic of, well, for me personally, all the lessons I learned through that one single experience, because it was more so than just being that one relationship. It was self-growth. It was a lot of self-growth, right? So anyway,
exactly.
What happened though is I did make this song, put it all together, had it pretty much finished. It was like it's the final song's like 1:30, I believe, and so quite brief, but
it's short.
Yeah, it was all I wanted to say. There was just this. It was just this little piece of music that encapsulated my feelings about this person, which was that even though the song's called "I Don't Love You Anymore," the actual feeling was I can't love you anymore. And the reason I did that is because I find that for myself, and I think humans in general, it's very hard to be honest with your emotions. There's things that we feel, but we can't say it the way we actually feel it because we don't want to hurt someone. We can't admit it. And so rather than calling it a song, I can't love you anymore, which is the real emotion, I had to I've masked it, like I was masking it like I did in real life, of like, I don't love you anymore. Because even though I did care about that person, still care about that person, I couldn't keep caring about them in the same way because it was harmful to myself. It was, obviously tearing me down by continuing to be there, to pick up the phone, to interact with them. And so choosing the words, I don't love you anymore, was more of like an affirmation of sorts of like, yes, I do love you. Yes, I care about you. But the more I do that, the more I'm hurting myself, and I'm not willing to do that. So I can't love you anymore. AKA, I don't love you anymore. We have to, kind of stop doing this, or at least limit the interactions we have. So it's purposely called I Don't Love You Anymore because I did care about them, but I also couldn't care about them. Quite dangerous. And so just saying I don't love you anymore is the easier way to communicate that of like, this is not good for either of us. Here's where the line is. So giving Cass, I took the song, gave it to Cass, told her the background, told her the story about it. And then Cass, where did it go for you?
The same direction. Same direction. And even the lyrics I wrote match that as well, because the way at least I feel like this, and I don't know if everyone else will whenever they listen to it, but I feel like I portrayed that in the way I sang it, as well as the lyrics I gave. That it was a battle between, it wasn't a battle between, like, I'll just put myself in, as the individual. It wasn't a battle between me and that person. It was a battle between me and myself. And choosing what was best for both of us. And what was best for both of us was saying, I don't love you anymore and I can't do this because it's not going anywhere good. And it's so difficult. It's so difficult because it's so hard to do that. And like, I know I don't have a lot of relationship experience or anything like that, but I really feel like I've dealt with things similar to this, and I've had this reaction to things, you know, at the same time. And even like, you could listen to the song and even just like sing it about a crush.
Yep.
Like literally a crush that you're just not into anymore, and you're like, all right, this is never gonna go anywhere, so I don't love you anymore. Like, I'm not gonna put you on this pedestal and make you this amazing person that I want to date and be together with and marry and have children with, because this is not going anywhere. So, you know what I mean?
Cass,
Like,
I
you can even see
100%
it
know
as
what you
that.
mean, because I think that happened a lot for me, and so I'm sure it happens for other people as well. Oftentimes when we fall in love, we don't fall in love with the individual. We fall in love with our expectation of the individual. And that's what makes it so painful, is that we build up this
Exactly.
version of them in our mind of like, this is why they're perfect. This is why they're for me. This is why we should work.
Mhm.
And it's like, wait a
Mhm.
second, take away that expectation. Here's what they've done. Here's what they've said. Here's how they've treated you. Are your expectations and reality aligned? If not, you're hurting yourself. They're not hurting you. You know, you're hurting yourself more than they're
Mhm.
hurting you, at
Mhm.
least.
Exactly. Exactly, you know.
So,
It's complex, Benji. It's really complex.
mhm.
But that's why I write about it. You know what I mean? Because I don't understand it all the way yet. And even if you go through it, you still don't understand it all the way. Like, even if you say I don't love you anymore, you don't understand why you can't love them anymore.
Mm.
You know, you don't understand why it couldn't work out, why it
Mm.
couldn't be something more than it was.
Mm.
So that's why I write about these things, and sometimes it helps when I write songs. I don't know if this is on topic or not, but it kind of follows along.
Say it.
It helps when I write songs about something that I'm going through, and I'll listen to them later, and I'll find different things in them that I didn't see there before. Like words that I wrote myself, and I'll listen to the words again and I'll be like, oh, all right. I'm like, all right. I see, I get it now. I get it now. Like, you know, because oftentimes I'll do what you said, like how I'll put an affirmation in a song, and the affirmation will mean nothing to me at that point in time because I won't believe it. But I'll listen to it later and I'll be like, oh, I see where I was coming from. you know, I see where I was coming from. I see where I was trying to get to.
You write this song, it's like, I'm not there yet. You come back to the song, like, I'm there now.
And you come back to it and you're like, all right, I understand.
In that sense, songwriting is kind of like a diary. You know, art is like a diary.
A little bit.
Go
A
back
little
and
bit.
visit it.
I will be honest with you. I'm not trying to
Go
cut
ahead.
in or anything. But I will write a song in the beginning of, say, in the beginning of getting to know someone. I will write a song because that's just how I deal with it. And by the time that, like, a lot of girls like call it situationships.
Yep, I know what.
You know, situationships. A lot of girls say that. And by the time I'm through with it, I have written 5 different paragraphs in the song. Like, it's just like, you know, not 5, like it's more than 5, you know. But, you know, I've written multiple different paragraphs for the song, and it has so many different aspects, and I don't even remember the first part by now. Like, the first part is gone from my head. But, you know, or actually, like, I'll say this. I'll say I don't remember the middle, but I typically remember the first part of the song and the last part of the song. And that just shows it. I remember the first part of the situationship, and I remember the last part of the situationship, and then it's done. you know, it was done. The middle was just my filler space for what I was writing and what I was feeling at the time, but it's still there for me to, you know, if I recorded, you know, any of it, it's still there for me to go back and look up on. And usually with my songs, I've written hundreds and hundreds, but usually they're all up here still. And if I hear a certain part of it, I can remember the lyrics for the most part. I can remember the lyrics. So that's just what I'm gonna say, is that, you know, even when, like, if you're saying that songwriting is kind of a diary, it is a diary or a journal to a certain extent. And I will take a song and just write continuously onto it, and it'll never have an ending, or it'll have an ending. I don't know. It's interesting.
It's so true, and I think it's just a general framework for life as well. Like you said, we remember the beginning, we remember the end. The middle part's always a little bit cloudy. It's always a little bit gray. Like we don't exactly know. In the same way for any kind of process, right? Like you look at
Exactly.
people who are successful and you see their struggling times, you see their successful times. It's like what happened in the middle? You know, and it's different for every person. Their process in the middle always changes. A lot of us have the same beginnings, a lot of us have the same outcomes, but our process is always a little bit different. And even,
I
you know,
think it's
looking at
also
relationships specifically, is that it's a chemical reaction, right? Where you said with a
mhm,
situationship specifically, there's never any clarity on what you are exactly. And so mentally, the way the human brain works, at least for me, and it sounds like for you as well, is that mentally you're creating all these different narratives and stories and expectations of what could happen with this person, right? It's not actually happening, but it could
it's
happen,
not
right?
it's not.
And with you, like with writing the paragraphs, all the paragraphs are different narratives that we have in our mind of like, this could go here, this could go here, this could go here,
Right,
right? And
right,
then, like to your point,
right.
once you get to the end of the situationship, the person's gone, or you've become a friend or a partner, whatever the ending was.
Mhm,
You
or you
understand,
left.
yeah,
Or you left.
or you left. You understand,
Yeah.
oh, those paragraphs were narratives I had in my head of what was going on mentally and emotionally for me.
Mhm. And I think it's also because, Benji, I wanted to add that the middle goes by so fast. The middle goes by so fast, you know? It's always either the beginning that's hard or the ending that's hard, and you don't remember the middle because it flew by. It flew by because you were enjoying yourself, or it flew by because you were busy with other things, or, it was easier. And you know what I mean, though? It's just
Caught up in the
that
heat of the
you don't
moment.
remember half of it because it went by so fast.
And it's a good reminder because it's not a negative thing. It's like, don't it's a lesson in attachment, right? There's the classic Buddhist teaching that attachment is the root of all suffering, right? And I think it's been proven for me really true when it comes to relationships, whether it's a friendship or dating or whatsoever. There's so many different types of relationships. I'm just going to focus on those two specifically. Is that you can trust someone and not depend on them or not rely them or on them, right? You can love someone and they don't have to be in your life for you to keep loving them or not. Like, it's I think human nature is to hold on, to grasp something, to keep it, right? And so I'm a majorly guilty of this, of where you meet someone and I get attached to them and I'm like, don't leave, stay in my life. I like your energy, I like our conversations or whatever. And then, inevitably they've left so many times. And I think, and of course, there's the part of it where it's human nature of like, we have a disagreement or we don't see eye to eye, or, you got to go here, I've got to go here, right? But I think even more from a self development lens, it's also that lesson of like, don't be so attached to other people as you are to yourself. You know, people are going to come and go, and that's just life. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It is life. And so you can trust people. You can love people. You should trust people. You should love people. You don't have to be attached to the point where your existence depends on them. Your happiness depends on them. Your future depends on them. And I think that's one of the hard lessons to learn, but it's also very necessary.
Mhm, mhm. Oh, it is so necessary. It is so necessary, and it's not easy.
Mm.
It's like you said, it's not easy at all. That's not an easy thing to learn, because when you meet someone that means that much to you, you're like, "Well, I couldn't live without them," or "I couldn't do this without them." And you're so adamant that, um, it kind of clouds everything.
It does. You try to make
Kinda
it,
clouds everything.
justify it, make excuses,
Mhm,
make it work for
mhm.
yourself. I want to touch on books, Cass, because I know that books are and literature are a big thing for you. And even in the lyrics of I Don't Love You Anymore, you reference Romeo and Juliet. Um, and so talk to me about books. Why are books important to you?
Books are knowledge. Books are knowledge of, everything. You can find anything in a book. You can find a story, you can find a lesson, you can find, love. You can find anything in a book. And the they've played such a big part of my life, and I mean, I feel like everyone probably knows that because I said, that my main part about songwriting is storytelling,
Right.
and I love stories, and I love storylines, and I love character arcs, and I love plots. And as for, like, the Romeo and Juliet inspiration in this one, it Romeo and Juliet, that wasn't a good love story. They were toxic.
That's a
They
hot
couldn't live
take.
without each other, so they died.
That's a hot take.
You died. Like, I'm just saying, like, it's an amazing love story because it's tragic, and all love stories that are tragic are amazing, right? You know, like, they make us feel something. They make us feel emotion, and we all wanna feel something. We all wanna get that serotonin boost. But, like, when you look at their relationship, they knew each other for, like, 2 days, fell in love, got married in, like, 3 days, and then, decided to commit suicide because they couldn't live without each other. And I think the part that's, like, the tragic part is just because when, you know, Juliet wakes up and Romeo's already dead because he thought Juliet was dead, and so then, you know, she's like, "Well, I'm gonna die with Romeo." And I think that's kind of the tragic part. But before that, if we look at their relationship before that, it's kind of like, "I don't love you anymore." Because they're just they don't know what they want. They don't know what they need. They just met each other. They met each other at a party. They were probably drunk. They didn't know half the things that were going on right then, you know what I mean? And I Don't Love You Anymore, it's kind of like that, like, when I was singing it, I'm like, you know, I want this so bad, but how do I know that the other person wants this just as bad as I do?
Right.
You know, or, you know, and then it went on to like, I can't deal with this anymore
There's that
because it's so
confusion. There's
confusing.
that
Because
waiting
it's
on the
so
other person to
confusing.
commit before I commit.
Mhm.
You know, back and forth.
Exactly, exactly. You know?
Well,
And just
and
I just
even
kind
to
of
jump
I
into
just
like the
kind of feel like
Romeo and
that's what
Juliet thing as well, is that like you said, like we see some of the this. I think one of the reasons the story is so powerful is that those same aspects of the story play into right now as well, right, Cass? Where it's like there's a lack of communication. Like if they communicated with each other clearly, like maybe it wouldn't have ended that way.
Right.
There's like you said, right in that high of emotion of like, I met you, you're interesting, it's
Exactly.
exciting, it's forbidden, you know, let's go for
Exactly.
it, see what this leads to. There's so many of things, aspects there of humanity that still happen today.
Mhm, mhm. And that's why their story is, you know, when Shakespeare wrote it, Shakespeare knew what he was doing.
Mhm.
He did. He knew what he was doing. You know, like, you know, but, because you can take lessons like that from it though, as well.
Absolutely.
Like, it's because if you looked at it at the bare minimum, take the death out of it, and you're like, "Alright, this relationship ended because they didn't talk to each other. They didn't know what was going on with each other, so this relationship is dead.
Wait a
It's gone.
second.
It ended."
That's why my relationships ended. What?
You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Alright,
yeah.
freaking
Yeah.
communicate and maybe
Yeah.
you'll get somewhere in life."
Well, and even
But,
taking it figuratively, I mean, with them, it was a physical death, but I mean, like, heartbreak can feel like a death. You're losing someone, and you know, it feels like you're losing a part of yourself. A part of you feels like it's dying, you know, emotionally. Um,
I believe that heartbreak can actually kill.
yeah, I
I do
tend to
believe
agree with
that.
that. When it
That
comes to
heartbreak can actually
storytelling,
kill you.
Cass, I was curious. You know, you've talked already about how important it is to you, how you appreciate it, how it seeps into what you do. What are some of your favorite storytelling techniques? Are there any certain storytelling techniques or I don't even know what to call them, like
Yeah,
archetypes
what
or
do
something
you
that you like to
what do you mean
play with?
specifically?
The faded love story. There's the other one. What's it called? The
Oh,
Rashomon,
like
where you had like
genres?
a story told from different perspectives. Like, how do you like to tell stories? What kind of like themes do you like to cover? Deliveries and things like
Like
that.
first person, third person perspective, is that what you mean?
Yeah, so
Like
including
a
that, but
little
like
bit?
any way of telling a
A little bit.
story. So, like I said, a faded love story where you know it's going to end bad. The happy ever after love story, the fairy tale, the first person perspective, second person perspective, omnipotent point of view. Like for all the different ways that we can tell stories, all the different ways. Like, what are some of your favorite ways to tell stories?
My favorite stories to read
Mm.
are the ones that I know are gonna end badly. And it sounds so terrible. It sounds so terrible. But some of my favorite ones to read are the ones that I know are gonna end badly because multiple reasons. But one that goes along with this is that I get so many amazing songs out of books that end badly. I get so many amazing songs out of it. I'm not even gonna lie with you. I do. So much amazing songwriting can come from me just reading a book and having so many emotions from it that I have to go write it into something. And like it's not and like you know, that kind of just sounds like, "Oh wow, Cass, you made a song about a book that nobody like how many other people have read that? Like nobody's going to understand that song." But I don't I take it and when you listen to the song afterwards, it can relate to any, you know, not any but like several different types of real life
Mm.
situations. You know, several different types of real life situations because I honestly when I'm crafting it, I kind of craft it into something that is easy to understand, like easily comprehensible
Mm.
and but still has that, you know, undertone of just I don't know, like if it's a faded love story, it has like the faded love story undertone, but
A
it's in
bit
real life
bittersweet,
situations,
maybe.
kind of.
Sure.
Yeah, like that bittersweet undertone, stuff like that. It's kind of hard to explain,
Can we dig into that a
but
little bit deeper, Cass, just real quick? I mean, you'd already talked about how your creative songwriting has developed over the years, but then, I mean, now looking at this one specifically of like songwriting and how you like to pull inspiration from sad endings, is there anything practical that you've learned? I mean, like practical things that maybe people could apply if they're listening to this on how to tell an effective story through songwriting. Is there anything practical you've learned? Because like you said, you have gotten better at taking a lesson and then transforming to your own and delivering it. But is there anything that you've
yeah,
learned practically about
yeah,
telling an
I
effective
would hope
story
anyway.
through songwriting?
Stories typically have a beginning and end.
Mhm.
And sorry, I feel like I didn't answer your question a minute ago. I
No,
feel
no,
like I
you
kind of
keep
answered it
going. Keep it
inadvertently.
going.
But stories typically have a beginning and end. And in my songs, a lot of them have, even if it's hard to find, usually it's hard to find, but they usually do have a beginning and an end. And that's why it's easier for me when I write them to tell a story, because I have where I know it's going to start and I have where I know it's going to end. And
Going
now
back
all
to
I
what
got
your
to do is find out
inspiration
the
with like
middle.
situationships where you already know how
Yep.
it ends up. Okay.
Yep.
See.
hmm Basically, and and that's a really good technique. Or if you know that, like, you know how you want your song to end,
Mhm.
you just have the end of your story, or you have the beginning of your story. Like maybe you're telling your story backwards.
Yeah.
I've done that a few times. It's that's a little bit more tricky though. That's a little bit more tricky. Maybe you have how your story begins. So there's where you start.
Right.
Like you have the beginning note, so
Yeah.
you can just create
Add a
after
little bit
that.
onto
You
that
get your you can ad
step
lib.
by
You got your
step.
middle now,
Yeah.
and you got your end.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
basically,
Awesome. No, I mean I
basically.
agree with that, and I think I kind of do the same thing when it comes to the production side of things, where um I'll just make a loop. I'll make something, and then I'll build the song around that loop. So it might be like
Mhm.
an 18
Mhm.
bar loop or a 16 bar loop, and I don't
Yeah.
know where it's gonna
Yeah.
end up in the final song. I have no idea, but I have
Yeah.
this one glimpse of like, okay, so here's this one little brick, one part of the song right here, and
Yeah.
like, okay, so it'd be sound good if I entered it with like an ambient pad, or it sounds good if I started with like a drums, or I started with this riff. But like, I'll
Mhm.
just make
Mhm.
one part of a song and then build around it.
Well,
So
yeah, and well, you know how I do it because I come to you and I'm like, all right, Benji, I don't have the middle yet, but I have this part in the end that I made. Because I come to you and I tell you that I'm like, I have no idea what the freaking heck is going in the middle, but I have the end. So
so I can figure it out.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Or
No,
I'll,
it's
I'll
just like
usually tell
connecting the
you I have an
dots.
idea.
Mm,
Yes. Be like, I have an idea,
right.
but it's not there yet.
Not there yet. Connecting the dots,
Yeah.
though. The song, I mean, going off of that, Cass, the one last thing I want to touch on with you is about mental health. And the songs you write are very emotional. And I think you're also just like
For
an
the most
emotional.
part.
Yeah, I think you're also just
For the
kind of
most
like an
part.
emotional part of your life. We all are. Where you're going from.
Does that ever end?
I'm trying to find out too, dude. But,
Does it
like,
ever end?
obviously, being a
The
creative
oh man.
in your personal life, looking at going to maybe university eventually, you're also having a job, and different people you meet, different people you talk to. Do you feel like you're in a good place mentally and emotionally these days, specifically? That says it all right there. That says it all.
Here's the thing, Benji, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I 100% thought I was.
hmm
And I went off 2 weeks ago to start my I
Training
don't know
for
how
a new
much
job.
I don't know how much information is too much information.
We'll just say
None of you
training
guys
for a new
can
job.
track me, so
You
for
started
my new
training for a
job,
new job.
I started training for my new job, and I had to be away from home for 2 weeks straight.
Yep.
I got to come home for the weekend.
Yep.
But I had to be away from home for 2 weeks straight, and I had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day
Right.
and go to 8 hours of classroom training.
Right.
And that is very different than anything I've ever done before. And I had to drive on 5-lane highways. And I've only had my license for like less than 6 months. So I'm driving on these 5-lane highways. Newbie.
6 months
I'm
of
a newbie.
experience.
In the middle of the freaking coldest place I have ever been in my entire life.
Yeah.
So basically everything sucked. Everything sucked. Also I had to drive in the snow. It was the second time I've done that, but it was on a 5-lane highway.
Driving in snow never gets
So-
any safer, by the way. So I mean, like, if it's the
I was gonna say, like,
the
I
second
was
or
like,
10th time, it's still
doesn't matter.
dangerous.
Doesn't matter. But yeah, so going into that, back on topic though. Going into that, I was like, I'm amazing right now. I'm
Good.
great.
Life is
You know,
great.
emotionally, mentally, I don't need no one. Okay, well, I need everyone. But I was like, in my head, I was like, you
Very
know,
confident in your zone. This is what I do.
I was sure that I could do it.
Yeah.
And guess what I did? I did.
Yeah,
But
you did
you
it.
know, Candy honestly helped, and the family, you know, being able to talk to the family,
Yeah.
like thank God for the internet and FaceTime and everything.
Mhm.
But if I can get a little bit too emotional for a second, I ran into a problem of, well, like halfway through the 2 weeks, I realized that I really wanted, like, I missed someone being there that I could have to myself, that I could put like all my, like, that I could go and complain to or rant to or whatever, you know, and not worry about bothering them, or that I could just, someone that I could go to and just, like, you know, cuddle with for hours
Yep.
because I was so
Yep.
stressed out from, you know, going to class all day. And or someone that would freaking go and buy me food because I was too exhausted to drive myself.
Yes.
You know, that too.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't have, you know, all this extra cash to spend $40 on a Uber Eats delivery, because Uber Eats delivery is actually very expensive in Omaha. To be honest. Omaha is actually pretty expensive. But so like going into it, I was just like, you know, I can do this by myself. I'm fine. I don't need anyone. And I felt like emotionally before that, I honestly was like, I'm not looking for a relationship right now, you know? I feel like since we're talking about I don't love you anymore, that kind of goes
Oh yeah, it ties
in
in
in with
completely.
it. But I was like 100% not looking for a relationship. But coming away from that, it just like, I'm fine. I'm fine. But it made me realize that life wouldn't be so bad if I had someone there. You know, like it
That's
wouldn't be a terrible thing.
that story right there, Cass,
It wouldn't be a
is
terrible thing.
relatable, I think, for so many individuals,
It
myself
is.
included,
It is,
right?
isn't it? You know?
Yeah, yeah. There's that human desire to have connection to people, right? There's that
Mhm.
old saying, "No man is an
Mhm.
island, no person is an island." Um,
Exactly.
yeah, and so I think
Exactly.
it's a very natural thing to experience. Like the harder part is how to deal with it, right? Because even if you do get into the dating scene, not you specifically with people, it still could be difficult or challenging to find someone that you know, that are on the same wavelength with you, someone who you want to
Yeah.
commit to, who wants to commit to
Mm.
you, you know, and so
And so when I, you know, went to bed at night and I thought about that, you know, I went to bed at night and I'm just thinking, you know, because we think a lot about these
yep.
things. I feel like everyone does. And I was just like, but what's the point? Because in my head I was like, so I need this right now, but even if I went out and met someone tonight,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna have that perfect relationship that I'm looking for right now. Not
Mhm.
perfect, but you know, I'm not gonna have that
Ideal
connection right
relationship.
now.
Yeah,
Even if I met someone tonight,
it
you
takes
know,
time.
I'm it's not gonna be like that.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm at the place I'm at right now, because I don't have time for it.
Yeah.
I don't have
But you
time for
still
it,
want it, and so it's like that hard
but I
thing.
still want it. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like that. So it's kind of like that thing where like at one point in time you're fine and you're okay with it and you understand why it's not something that you can endeavor right now. Like it's
Right.
not an endeavor you can partake in right now.
Yeah.
But at the lowest point in time, you're like,
Man, I
I
wish I
need
had
this. You know,
that.
like I need this. Like where is it?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I get it.
I guess it's kind of like being sober and drunk
Mm.
a little bit. Only it's with emotions. So like
Mm.
you're sober from emotions or you're drunk with emotions. You know?
Right.
And
That's the maze, dude. That's the fucking
yeah,
maze of figuring that out,
yeah.
you know, of like, because I think
Mhm.
the way that most people deal with it is, myself included, is that where I'm at right now with it is that like, I'm very, very, it sounds cliche, focused on myself in terms of I'm making the best life I can for myself. I'm doing the things that I love. I'm doing the things I care about. I'm taking care of myself, you know, in every way possible, physically, mentally, emotional, blah, blah, blah. Right. But then at the same time, also being open to something happening. And so you put yourself out there, you talk with some people, you know, go on a date if possible. And I think that it's different for every person. We have to figure out how to balance and manage our emotions, right? And our desires, like what we're looking for. But it's challenging. And that's like the story for most people that are between, you know, 18 to 30 whatever years old right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
What have you learned about caring for your mental health, Cass? I mean, like you said, going through that experience just recently, and maybe even on the bigger scheme of
Mhm.
things, have you learned anything to help you balance your mental health to take care of yourself?
I learned that I already knew this beforehand, but I learned to a certain extent not to ever leave home without my guitar again.
That's a good lesson. That's a good lesson.
Never leave home without my guitar again. You have to detox, Benji. You have to detox, and you have to take time away from things, because if you don't, then you end up in like a sinkhole of yourself. You know what I mean? Like then you just end up in yourself, and then you're not gonna get anywhere because you're stuck there.
Stuck in the cycle of
You're stuck
self-talk.
there. You need to get out of it. You need to get out of it. And so
Gotta break
before
it.
that happens, though, before something like that happens, you need to find a way to de-stress or detox, or like think about something else, go somewhere else, do something else, be with someone else, talk about something else.
Yep.
So that it doesn't happen.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Completely agree. Completely agree. And we got to do research into that for ourselves of, what activities help us, what practices help us.
Yeah, and it's gonna take time.
It takes time and experience.
But yeah. So like, yeah, I don't know. But
silly
honestly,
thing.
I agree with you on a side note, though. I agree with you about the whole relationship thing. I'm trying really hard to focus on my job right now because I have things I want in life, and it would be nice to have that as well. But I have things I want in life, and I'm not gonna get it by sitting here not working for what I want.
Right.
So you know what I mean?
Right.
So like right now, that's just where my focus is. It's just like, oh,
well, and that's the thing, Cass, right there. I think is
I want
that
this, so I'm gonna work for it.
I don't even think that focus is the right word to use, but I'll just use it because it makes sense to most people. It's for me.
Well, yeah, that's right. It's comprehensible. So
right, exactly. For me, it's about the mission. Like I have a mission with my life, so it's more than just a focus. It's more than just a hobby. It's a mission. It's like a movement, a message I want to be delivering, a community I want to be building. And so that's been really helpful for me of like, that is community, my content, my project. It's people, it's hobby, it's interest, it's creativity, it's well-being. Like for me, my mission encompasses all of these things, right? And so that's just for me. Other people can find that same thing with a person, right? You look at people from certain generations, even now it happens occasionally where they build a family, and that's what is their community, their interest, their hobby. For me, it's obvious it's with content creation being an online personality. But I think that people should find like their mission. What is your mission in life? Which doesn't have to be a big scary thing. It's just like, what is it that like gets your attention, gets your focus, gets your energy, right? What are you building for yourself? Is it a friend group? Is it a project? Is it a hobby group? Is it a camp? Is it a conference? Is it a family? Like it could be anything for anybody, but having that mission has been helpful for me, maybe for other people as well. But for me, it's been great to have a mission that's able to manifest through this community I'm building, through this project I'm building.
Right.
Yeah. Well, real quick, because I want to ask you, because actually, you talked about the 2-week training period, which was quite tumultuous and difficult. But not too long ago, even before that, obviously a few months ago, you did have the opportunity to go out to California and meet up with one of your best friends, maybe your best friend in real life. It was for the first time. For the audience, I'm giving some context for the audience here. She got to meet her best friend in real life for the first time ever. She was in California for the first time. Got to do a bunch of cool experiences, all about in California. And so I was curious, Cass, how did that experience affect you of going to a new place for the first time, seeing your best friend in real life for the first time, and just getting to explore somewhere that you hadn't explored before? How did that affect you mentally and emotionally?
So I got to do it twice. So I think that says it right there. Obviously, the first time
not enough.
It affected me in a very good way, and I didn't get enough, so I had to go 2 times. And I want to go 3. I want to go 4. I want to go as many times as I can.
Oh, yeah.
I want to be there, but I want to be multiple places. One of the main things, mentally it did for me was it helped me realize that I can go to any of the places I want to go to. You know what I mean? I can. And you don't realize that until you get to experience it. And I understand. I understand everyone that, hasn't got to experience something like that. And you honestly don't understand it until it happens. And then when it happens, you're like, wow. Emotionally, I found the love of my life. It is In-N-Out Burger.
Food!
No man will compare. No man will compare to In-N-Out Burger. That is the love of my life. Only a specific one though. Has to be the one in West Hollywood. I think is the one.
Okay.
I think in West
The
Hollywood. Yeah.
specific location.
No man will compare.
Ah.
Yeah, I tried a different one. We tried a different one, but like it was amazing. It was In-N-Out. But it wasn't my In-N-Out. It wasn't our In-N-Out. So
Funny you're saying that because I do low-key have a love affair as well with a burger joint called Moss Burger. It's like it's my
Moss Burger. Moss Burger, yeah. It's like my In-N-Out. It's like
exactly.
My In-N-Out. Funny story. Funny story real fast. It's kind of on topic, off topic. Doesn't have to do with any songwriting. You know how there's that thing where you're not supposed to be able to taste in dreams?
Mm-hmm. In-N-Out's the exception.
I taste In-N-Out.
Yeah.
Oh, I taste In-N-Out in my dreams. I am not kidding. Never before in my life have I ever tasted anything in my dreams. I taste In-N-Out.
Amazing.
I'm not kidding. I'm not even kidding. So mentally it taught me that amazing lesson, and that is an amazing life lesson because I've always wanted to travel overseas to like Italy.
Yes, real quick, if I can ask you about that, because I completely agree, and I'm so glad that you said it, because of your age range and the experience for you, it's a personal thing, right? I've experienced the same thing. I believe it's true for most people. But when you have a conversation with someone who hasn't done it yet, they haven't broken out of their country or their city or their area yet, and so they're still thinking like they want to do it, but like they're not going to do it. What was it for you that was the breaking point? Why did you finally take the trip? Like, was it difficult for you? Was it not difficult? How did you break through it?
It was 100% difficult. I'd never been on a plane before. It was so difficult. But it was so worth it. It was so worth it that I went a second time. July?
Within a few months.
4 months later.
Yeah.
3 to 4 months later, I went back again. And it only took me that long because I had to work and get time off of my job and then, get the money for it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a breaking point. I think it was a starting point. Is how I like to look at it. Because it was the beginning of something new. And it's difficult to look at it like that when you're in the moment. But after the moment, it's easier to understand.
It's exciting. It's a new chapter, like you said. There's new experiences.
It was, and there were other reasons for me to go back as well because I didn't get to make it to see our cousin the first time, who I wanted to see, who lives in California. But the second time, I planned the entire trip around it, and I actually went there for her birthday.
Awesome.
For our cousin's birthday, and so. What's that?
Even more powerful than an experience.
Oh yeah, it was crazy.
But you're right. Like, I mean, just to kind of throw some bullet points on that. Like, first of all, think about it as a beginning, right? Where you're experiencing, you're making a new experience in chapter. Also, like you mentioned, well, it's a good subpoint, Cass, having something in that area that you want to see desperately. Whether it's an individual, which is super powerful because of the emotional connection, or maybe it's a location, like the.
What was it?
The Colosseum or the Great Tower of China or the Great Wall of China or the Tokyo Tower. Like if there's a certain thing you want to see there, right? Or maybe even a concert performance, it gives you a little bit of momentum to say, okay, I want to go there because of this, even if it's fucking scary. I want to see this, so I'm gonna make it happen for myself.
Yeah. Even our nephews. For me, part of the reason that I got through so well, and even going alone the second time, because I went alone the second time, I just had to think really hard, like I'm doing this, to see them, I'm doing this. They're expecting me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do this for them. Yeah. Traumatizing experience. But yeah. So for our nephews as well.
Love that.
And I met so many people. I feel personally like God blessed me because I met so many people along the way that made me feel more comfortable and took my stress levels down. Even just sitting at the airport. I met this really, really nice lady, and we talked the entire time before the plane came, and she was amazing. And she was like, do you want me to ask the lady if you can sit next to me? Like, I'll ask if you can sit next to me or not, because like I want to talk to you more. Like we can talk more like that. And like I just felt like so blessed. I was like, thank God, because like this is amazing.
Dude.
This is amazing.
That's what happens when you travel. When you're again, there's the exceptions, but you get to meet people, and it's usually hopefully it's a good experience, Yeah.
It is you get to meet so many people. Even so, just all of that, just all of that. And I feel like it also is because you're in the it's a type of connection you have with them.
Yeah.
So it's like, when you're at work, you have the connection with your coworkers, or when you're at school, you have a connection with your school friends, or like when you're in
online, you got your
walking
Instagram
through the
friends, you got your
store.
Snapchat friends, people you
Sure,
talk
yeah,
to
all that
on the
too.
street, waiting for the
Yeah,
street
that's
light.
what I'm saying, like, when you're walking in the store, you're at the same aisle and you're like, "Oh, you buy that too? I buy that
Yeah,
too," like,
yeah.
right? So it's all about connection with people, right? Everybody, wants a
It is.
connection. People are just like that. So even when I was in, there was a whole elevator mix-up because we were on the 9th floor, whenever we were in Omaha the day before yesterday. And so we're in Omaha, 9th floor, elevator, really classy hotel, and I couldn't get the key card to work. So I was stuck going up and down the elevator and not being able to get to our floor because I couldn't make my key card work. And like so many people just talked to me getting on and off the elevator. And it was just like an experience in itself. Even just that 5 minutes that I was
Mundane,
doing
small
that.
little silly thing. It's
Just this,
still
yeah,
was an
silly thing. And
experience.
still like, everyone was just talking to me like this couple comes on and they're just like talking about something and they like include me in it and I talk to them and then they're like, have a good night now, and I'm like, you too, like that.
Yeah.
And it's just about that connection, like, we were all traveling, and so we all had that little connection
That
that we're
shared
staying in this
experience,
hotel,
that
we're all traveling together. So that's how, yeah, it's like the same experience.
I mean, even
So I
like
mean,
you,
that's
even
another
with you saying that about elevators, it triggered a memory, a very small one, but like you said, the small interactions are the best ones. Back in, I was traveling Japan one time with
yeah,
our brother
yeah,
Ethan, and yeah, I had a small conversation in the elevator with two Japanese people about how I was born in Okinawa. Like when you're traveling, anything can happen, and you meet
yeah.
the craziest people. It's a cool
You meet
experience.
the craziest people. And they probably feel the same way about us. So
Right? We all live on each other's
they probably feel the
memories.
same way about us.
I'm gonna
But
look at the futurescape a little bit, Cash. You've already mentioned
yeah,
obviously what you're focused on right now
yeah.
with your life, but I'm wondering if there's any projects or things you're working on right now, or maybe something people can look forward to. Is there anything that you have in the works right
A lot of things in the works right now, but I don't know if any of them are releases.
Sure.
I don't know if any of them are releases or not. It takes so much time, and maybe it's something that one day I'll be able to put more time into.
Sure.
But
Even for yourself personally though, like what kind of projects are you spending your time on right now? Is it just songwriting, or do you have some other things you're also expressing yourself through?
let's see. Just a lot of songwriting.
Love it. Love it.
It's a lot of songwriting.
Mhm.
It's all like at the moment, it's all I kind of have time for. It's been a very busy past few. Been a very busy past few months. So it's something that I can just
Yeah. It's
um
you know how to do it. You're good at
do
doing it. It's
multiple
meaningful.
times a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's meaningful to me. And it's also a stress relief at the same time that it's, a creative. Um, what?
Outlet.
I'm losing my train of thought. Getting too late.
I mean, respect. I love that,
Output.
and I
Creative
respect that.
output.
Yeah, output,
Yeah.
outlet. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There we go. I
You,
found it.
you obviously said it might not be a release. Is there any chance of a solo single from you at some point in the future? Not saying near future
I hope
necessarily, but at
so.
some point. Okay.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Have you? I'm real quick on that. Just I'm not sure. I'm honestly curious. Have you thought about it? Have you thought about what kind of project it would be, whether it's a single or an album? Have you thought about like I want to do a music video for my first song? Like, have you thought about that at all, or just like know that at some point you do want to put out your own music?
I just know that at some point I would like to put out my own music.
Good deal.
Whether it's just to document it for myself and have it there so like if other people want to listen to it.
Yeah.
Or just to say that I did it.
Yeah.
As well. So, but yeah, hopefully.
Look forward to it. For anyone who does want to follow her career more, obviously check out our new single. Me and Cass did a collaboration. The song is called "I Don't Love You Anymore." IDLYA for the short version. Guys, real quick, like why should people listen to "I Don't Love You Anymore"?
Because it's relatable to a certain extent, and I hate when I hear that. I hate when I hear someone say that. So I want to say something a little bit different, but I'm gonna have to think about it for a second.
Take your time.
I Don't Love You Anymore was two personal stories that happened at two different times and had the same outcome. So you tell me what that is. I'm just saying.
Yep.
I'm just saying. And it's very magical. The whole song is very magical and very raw. And if you don't want to listen to it, don't listen to it, but give it a shot because it might be nice to play on a rainy day whenever you're kind of just going through things and you want to listen to something that is kind of what you're feeling at that moment.
Perfect.
And I like to write my music like that because I can't always find a song that feels the way that I'm feeling or says the words that I can't put into words. So that's what I try to do whenever I write something, is to make it for those times of life.
You guys heard it. You got to check it out. With a recommendation like that, it's hard to say no. Cass, I want to thank you so much for jumping on, even though we were both quite tired. You jumped in and gave some very literate, very educated answers. We do have one last section of the podcast, which is the speed round. So I'll just ask a very quick question, give a very quick response. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite food?
Enchiladas just popped in my head, so we'll go with that.
What about In-N-Out? Favorite day of the week?
Friday.
Favorite movie?
Avengers.
Favorite song
like
at the moment?
Favorite song at the moment?
Yeah.
Respects. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
What leisure activities do you enjoy?
Playing guitar and swinging. Any type of walking, like anywhere, walking anywhere. And hanging out with the people I love.
What countries do you want to visit?
Italy and France.
What languages do you speak? Is there one more? Go ahead.
There's probably a lot more, but those are the ones that I really want to visit.
What languages do you speak?
Oh, I know some sign language, and I know some Korean, and I speak English mainly.
Name one person, alive or dead, that you want to have a conversation with.
I would really like to have a conversation with our great aunt that recently passed away.
And last, how do you want people to think of you?
As someone that they thought really cared about everyone and was sweet, and also hopefully was a great inspiration.
I love it.
To them.
It's amazing. Cass, this has been an incredible conversation. I love everything we touched on. Thank you so much for being here. I got a bunch of clips saved right here in my notebook I want to chop up for social media. So thanks for making time for this. Is there anything that you want to say to the audience listening? Maybe something we didn't cover or something on your heart? Anything you want to say, just say it right now.
If you think that you can't do something, you're wrong because you can actually do it.
Short and sweet and true. I fully agree with that. Cass, thank you again. To the audience listening, thank you guys so much for being here, for watching this episode. Thank you for listening to the new song. Thank you for the constant support. And I love what I'm doing, and I'm thankful for you guys who are here with us. I'm thankful to you, Cass, for making great art together with me and being a part of the.
I love what I'm saying too.
Yeah.
And I love that you give me the opportunity to release something because I never have time to release something by myself. So
it is. I'm honored. I'm humbled.
Thank you for that.
You pulled together with me and made these incredible stories through the productions that I do. So thank you so much, and I can't wait for our next one as well. Everyone listening, please go check out Cass's page, follow her content, leave comments, view it, save it, share it, download it wherever you can, be a part of it. She tells the most amazing stories. She's an incredible human, and I'm honored to say that she's my sister. Guys, we will see you on the next episode. Take care. Have a great night. Woo! And that's a wrap, my dude. That's a wrap.